Hey, Element Church, I hope you're having a great week. Pastor Adam here. This past Sunday, our first Sunday in the school, was amazing. It was so great to see so many of you, to have our church back together, and just hearing people sing, seeing the smiles on people's faces, or at least the smiles in their eyes while everyone was wearing a face mask. It was just exciting to be back together, worshiping all as one community back in the school. What was really exciting too about this Sunday is we did a little experimentation with some new technology. We have a new video camera that we have to record our entire worship gathering so that those of you who can't be there on a Sunday morning can still experience the entire service. And we were able to pipe that live stream video all the way outdoors by the playground. So those who didn't want to come inside, wanted to maybe be outdoors, that they were more comfortable with that, or those who had kids, they wanted to just let their kids play on the playground. They could still both hear and watch everything that was happening in the worship center. The one downside is we had a few technical glitches along the way. Now, the good news is we solved those problems while the service was still going, so that we know what happened, how to fix it, and that it won't happen again. But a part of the downside is it sort of messed with our video recording from the service this weekend. And so unfortunately, we do not have a full recording of the entire worship gathering from this past Sunday. But because we're in our Summer Stories series, this week, Trevor Smith shared his story. And I want to make sure that nobody misses his story. And so even while we can't show you a video of the entire service, I do want to share with you his story and the story that he shared that we recorded. So I hope you enjoy Trevor's story. I hope that it encourages you, it challenges you, it speaks into your heart and life. And we can't wait to be able to meet back together again this Sunday. We look forward to seeing you there.
Hi, Element Church. My name is Trevor Smith, and I have the opportunity to be the leader for the tween group here at Element Church. And today I just want to take some time to share my story. Though I feel like I have a lot of different aspects of my story that I could share, I really spent some time thinking about what's really been on my heart and what God is calling me to say today. And one of the stories that came to mind was just thinking about where I place God into my life and where He fits into my life as a whole. When I was younger, I don't remember a time where I didn't know Jesus. I remember going to Sunday school when I was younger, though, like probably a lot of kids, I really didn't care for it. It wasn't my favorite thing to go do. And I remember just not even really paying attention. And of course, I was raised Lutheran, and so right after Sunday school, you'd start moving into confirmation, and it was something that was required of us to do, and I never thought of not doing it. But at some point in these couple of years, at some point during this time, I started getting in trouble. I started caught doing things that I really shouldn't have been doing. And at one point I got caught doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, and I definitely got in trouble for it, but everything was okay. A couple of weeks before I was to get confirmed, I got in trouble again. There were no 3 strikes for me. I was out, right? The pastor said, you can't be confirmed anymore. You need to leave. Though you can continue going to the church, but you just can't get confirmed with your class. Now, my mom had a conversation with me at this time, and she was talking to me and saying that, my dad, who had passed away when I was younger, really wanted me to be confirmed, really wanted me to be a member of a church. And so we talked to the pastor and said, hey, what can we do? And he said, well, if you want to get confirmed, you have to go to adult classes. So my mom and I enrolled in adult classes, but just like Sunday school, it was really like, who really cares? And so after a couple of weeks of going, we dropped out. Now, I didn't go to church for years after that. One of the things around this time, maybe a couple of years later, I noticed was that I was missing something. I felt like I was missing something in my life. And so I started doing things and acting certain ways and trying different things just to see if it would fill this hole. And I remember the first time I really realized that there was a hole, there was something missing. And it was on my graduation day from high school. In here, we're getting everything ready, and if you've ever graduated, hopefully you graduated, but if you ever graduated or had somebody graduate, it's a mess and it's chaos and everything else. And my mom kept saying, hey, you need to go visit your dad at the cemetery. And I kept putting it off, and then I finally went out there, and I just remember standing there crying, and just completely sad that he wasn't there with me. But not just that he wasn't there was something else that was missing, but I didn't know what it was. And so then I continued working to try to fill that spot. And I just didn't matter what I did. I went to school and I graduated from college. I started a family. I got married and then started a family. And none of that seemed to fill that hole. And it didn't matter how much money I was making or the things that I was buying and how I was living my life. Nothing was filling that hole that I felt inside. It was around 2006, 2007. I was in a dark time, dark place, and I remember going, hey, you know what? I should give this Jesus thing a try again. But I didn't feel like I could just walk into a church and just start attending church. Like that wasn't something you could just do. Like you had to be invited. And during a conversation with one of my friends, he said, hey, I sing at a church. And I said, well, will you invite me to come to your church? Right? So I was in that place where I was actually asking somebody to invite me so I could go see what this was all about. He did, and I went. And actually we went, the church we went to is the church that met in Murphy Creek before Element Church does now. And I walked in there and I was wearing a football jersey, and the pastor and the junior pastor came up to me and started talking to me about football. And I can tell that they really didn't know football at all, right? It was kind of funny. But at the same time, I realized that these people cared enough about a stranger that they would just come talk to me about anything that they could to just start building a relationship. And so from that point on, I remember Christy and I just jumped in, right? It just seemed like it was like the next week I was teaching Sunday school. And I was trying to make it so it wasn't as bad as I remember it. I don't know if I did a good job or not. I believe that the pastor's kids who were in my Sunday school probably knew more about Jesus than I did. But it was definitely a time for me to grow. And through the teaching of the kids, I was learning as well. And it just continued to get me closer and closer to Jesus. And as I did that, I realized that Jesus was filling that hole that I had. And I continued to build relationships, and my church ended up closing, but we had a nice transition to another church, and I was able to jump in with the youth group. I was able to have a bunch of guys around me that were there to support me, and if I slipped or fell, they were there to pick me back up and help keep me pointed to Jesus. It was around this time that I decided that I would declare my love for Jesus and I'd get baptized. And so I got baptized at my new church, but they did let me bring my old pastor in from my previous church to do the baptism for me. And I felt complete. The hole that I had in my life was gone, and Jesus filled that hole. But unfortunately, my story doesn't stop quite yet. I get to a crossroads where I had choices to make, and unfortunately, the choices that I had, both of them required me to stop in the youth group at the church. And I wasn't going to be able to do as much in the church as I was at that time. But I had to make the choice in order to continue living and making money and having a job. And so I took one of those choices, and I fell out of the church. And then we ended up moving to Houston, which obviously made me further out of the church because it was pretty far away from Aurora. In Houston, we tried a bunch of different churches, but for me, I just couldn't find a fit. Now looking back on it, I know it wasn't the churches that I was at, it was me, and the fact that I was not holding God in that number one spot in my life anymore. And so we moved back to Aurora, and we kept trying new churches. We tried a couple of them. They were all great. None of them were fantastic. And then I realized again that I'm trying to use church, and I'm trying to use these folks that are at church to fill the hole that I have. And that wasn't working. And I realized that I need to turn back and look to God to say, God, please fill that hole. And when I looked to heaven, I saw God standing there waiting for me, welcoming me back into His world. And ever since then, I feel more complete, and though I have to work on it on a daily basis. I continue to reach out to God through prayer, through reading my Bible, through teaching at the tween group, through volunteering in Sunday school. All of these things help me keep God in the center. But one thing I love about Element Church is that we have a group of folks around that are there, and they help guide, and when they see you falling, they're not afraid to say, hey, come back. Hey, you're losing track of where you're supposed to be or where God is at in your life. And that's one thing that I hold very valuable. So I guess the story or the meaning I'm putting behind it is we always need to make sure we're keeping God as our number one, and He is our focus all the time, every day. But it's also wise to build up a ring of fellow Christians there to support you and to help you when you run into troubled times.